Look at what you've done, Alexius. All this suffering. And for what?
For my country, for my son. But it means nothing now. I knew you would appear again. Not that it would be now, but I knew I hadn't destroyed you. My final failure.
Was it worth it? Everything you did to the world, to yourself.
It doesn't matter now. All we can do is wait for the end.
What do you mean? What's ending?
The irony that you should appear now, of all the possibilities. All that I fought for, all that I betrayed, and what have I wrought? Ruin and death, that is nothing else. The Elder One comes, for me, for you, for us all. Felix.
That's Felix. Maker's breath, Alexius, what have you done?
He would have died, Dorian. I saved him. Please, don't hurt my son. I'll do anything you ask.
Hand over the amulet and we let him go.
Let him go and I swear you'll get what you want.
I want the world back.
No. No!
Oh, Liliana. Could have done this without a fight. And obviously his son is what his weak spot, so to speak. At this point, I think Alexius realizes
The Elder
that
One will destroy us
the depth of what he's done. Now he's just acting out of despair. Disrupt the rift there and paralyze the demons for just a moment. So as you might expect, he opens rifts in between various stages of the fight. I like the music of the boss fight too. It's got the right amount of kind of forlorn tone to it. It's not like super triumphant. Second here, got to pause a little bit.
It's a futile!
All right, we're back here for a second. Sorry about the little cut there. Demons galore. And close another rift. That's the last one.
We both failed! Accept your death as I...
Nope, couldn't finish his last words there.
He wanted to die, didn't he? All those lies he told himself, the justifications. He lost Felix long ago. Didn't even notice. Oh, Alexius.
I know you cared for him.
Once he was a man to whom I compared all others. Sad, isn't it? This is the same amulet he used before. I think it's the same one we made in Minrathous. That's a relief. Give me an hour to work out the spell he used, and I should be able to reopen the rift.
An hour? That's impossible! You must go now! The Elder One.
You cannot stay here. We'll hold the outer door. When they get past us, it'll be your turn.
We'll make this count.
The only way we live is if this day never comes. Cast your spell. You have as much time as I have hours. Though darkness closes, I am shielded by flame. Andraste, guide me. Maker, take me to your side.
You move, and we all die! You'll have to do better than that.
Put aside all claim to Redcliffe and we let you live.
You won. There is no point extending this charade. Felix.
It's going to be all right, Father.
You'll die.
Everyone dies.
Well, I'm glad that's over with.
Or is it?
Or not.
Grand Enchanter, we'd like to discuss your abuse of our hospitality.
Your Majesties.
When we offered the Mage's Sanctuary, we did not give them the right to drive our people from their homes.
King Alistair, Queen Anora, I assure you, we never intended...
In light of your actions, good intentions are no longer enough.
You and your followers have worn out your welcome. Leave Ferelden, or we'll be forced to make you leave.
But we have hundreds who need protection. Where will we go?
The Inquisition might be willing to take in the mages.
And what are the terms of this arrangement?
Hopefully better than what Alexius gave you. The Inquisition is better than that, yes?
They have lost all possible supporters. The Inquisition is their only remaining chance for freedom.
No one fights well for their captors.
It seems we have little choice but to accept whatever you offer.
And so, here you have the decision. You can take the mages on, but keep them basically almost exactly as Alexius had them, as servants to do whatever. Or you can have them as equals, with a full alliance between the former circles of Magi and the Inquisition. And as you might suspect, I think that Aurora would be more inclined to take them on as allies. After all, you know, this for one reason, because this is pretty much exactly what Alexius had them as, and we don't want that. But also, Aurora herself is a mage, and I think she's starting to enjoy her freedom from the Circle. Another thing I want to point out, just really briefly here before the scene plays out, is that this scene, of course, depends on one of the choices from the first game. Did you have King Did you have Alistair become king? Did you have Anora become queen? Or both? And back in our original game, we said that both of them were ruling jointly. So this is another indication that you can use to check to see whether your continuity has been preserved. And lastly, this is actually a reunion, having these characters in the room. Two of them don't recognize each other, but are closer than they think. I don't want to really give it away because it's spoilers for some of the supplementary material in the Dragon Age universe, but if you're interested, have a look up Fiona's biography on the Dragon Age wiki, and you'll know what reunion I'm talking about.
We would be honored to have you fight as allies at the Inquisition's side.
A generous offer, but will the rest of the Inquisition honor it?
The breach threatens all of Thedas. We cannot afford to be divided now. We can't fight it without you. Any chance of success requires your full support.
It's a generous offer. I doubt you're going to get a better one from us.
We accept. It would be madness not to. I will gather my people and ready them for the journey to Haven. The breach will be closed. You will not regret giving us this chance.
And that concludes the next major quest that we've done. And with the help of the mages, hopefully we'll have enough magical power to close the rift once and for all.
It's not a matter for debate. There will be abominations among the mages, and we must be prepared.
If we rescind the offer of an alliance, it makes the Inquisition appear incompetent at best, tyrannical at worst.
What were you thinking, turning mages loose with no oversight? The veil is torn open.
Give them their freedom for now. If they prove later they can't handle it, impose restrictions.
And how many lives will be lost if they fail? With the veil broken, the threat of possession.
Enough arguing. None of us were there. We cannot afford to second-guess our people. The sole point of the Herald's mission was to gain the mage's aid, and that was accomplished.
The voice of pragmatism speaks. And here I was, just starting to enjoy the circular arguments.
Closing the breach is all that matters.
I got a taste of the consequences if we fail. Let's make sure we don't.
We will not fail.
We should look into the things you saw in this dark future. The assassination of Empress Celine. A demon army.
Sounds like something a Tevinter cult might do. Orlais falls, the Imperium rises. Chaos for everyone.
One battle at a time. It's going to take time to organize our troops and the mage recruits. Let's take this to the war room. Join us. None of this means anything without your mark, after all.
And I'd hoped to sit out the assault on the breach. Take a nap, maybe go for a walk.
What is it they say? No rest for the wicked.
Meet us there when you're ready.
I'll skip the War Council, but I would like to see this breach up close, if you don't mind.
Then you're staying?
Oh, didn't I mention? The South is so charming and rustic. I adore it to little pieces.
And you might notice, sometimes, unfortunately, due to a graphical glitch, Dorian's mustache kind of has a mind of its own. Well, his mustache and his goatee. And sometimes wanders around on his face. So again, you have the choice of taking on Dorian or not. But, I mean, after all, he seems like a cool guy, and he helped us out.
There's no one I'd rather be stranded in time with, future or present.
Excellent choice. But let's not get stranded again anytime soon, yes?
I'll begin preparations to march on the summit. Make her willing, the mages will be enough to grant us victory.
No, I can certainly understand Cullen's annoyance at the mages being offered alliance. I don't think it's so much that the mages are not being, like, strictly overseen. After all, I mean, it's not like the mages were under strict control that were already here in Haven. I mean, we saw that with some of the former Circle mages and Templars fighting and Cullen having to try to sort it out. So I don't think it's so much that. It's the fact that it was done without him having any input. Because the fact remains, while this is the Inquisition, there is no official Inquisitor. This is still a joint effort among all of the advisors, which includes Aurora, but, you know, no one is really still officially in charge. All right. Now, a couple things to do to follow up on the past mission. We'll be talking to the advisors and to the companions, as we normally do. Also, one thing I forgot to do earlier, but I can go ahead and do that now, is reading of the new character codexes. So I'll go ahead and start those. We have Alistair. King Alistair Theron was crowned the ruler of Ferelden after the end of the Fifth Blight. His people consider him a hero for fighting against the Darkspawn as a Grey Warden. Few wardens have ever left the secretive order, and he is the only one of those who went on to rule a nation. Queen Honora, daughter of the legendary Terran Loghain, rules at his side. Although Ferelden has prospered under their reign, it was greatly weakened by the Blight. Tensions with neighboring Orlais have been high, and many believe a renewal of their long-standing conflict is inevitable. And in the original game, we found evidence that King Alistair's brother, the previous king, was attempting to form a close alliance with Empress Selene of Orlais. But of course he perished at Ostagar. Blackwall. I do not have much on Warden Blackwall. We know he became Constable of the Grey in Valchevin, something like that, after Warden Constable Fontaine assumed the position of Commander of the Grey from her predecessor. He also bears the Silverate Wings of Valor, an honor bestowed upon Orlesian wardens for deeds of great daring. The details of the act for which Blackwell earned the Silverite Wings, however, are sketchy. Grey Wardens hide their secrets well. The medal was likely awarded for a campaign to secure Deep Road's entrances within Orlais, shortly after the Fifth Blight. Several Grey Wardens lost their lives on that campaign. Perhaps more would be dead if not for Blackwall. According to my sources, Warden Blackwall has been traveling alone for several years now. The last anyone saw him at the keep in Valchevin, it was 937 Dragon. So about 3-4 years ago. It has been completely abandoned, along with all other Warden outposts. I believe Blackwall is as curious about this disappearance as we are. Perhaps in time we will find answers. Liliana. I believe that Warden Constable is the rank between a rank-and-file Grey Warden and Warden Commander. The Warden Commanders are in charge of the various regions of Thedas, and they're pretty much allowed to act with impunity however they want, because the Grey Warden command structure is pretty loose. The First Warden, who theoretically is in charge of all Grey Wardens, tends to be more of a figurehead, whereas the Warden Commanders underneath him are the ones who really get stuff done. So Duncan was Warden Commander of Ferelden, and then Vexus was Warden Commander after him. So I think Warden Constable is just beneath that. All right, we have a new one for Dorian, of course. Dorian Pavus. Only child and heir presumptive to the senatorial seat of Magister Hallward Pavus, Dorian comes from a prestigious line of mages, prominent in the coastal Tevinter city of Quarinus since the late Exalted Age. At that time, the Imperium was recovering from a failed Exalted March and the Fourth Blight. Gideon Pavus arose as a voice of reason within the Magisterium. his bloc of allies convinced the Imperium not to descend upon the weakened south, to extend a hand of reconciliation to those who had sought their destruction. That House Pavus remained standing even after Magister Gideon was tried for treason is a testament to the power he built, and, as Dorian himself would claim, an excellent example of how internecine politics in Tevinter can bring low even the brightest star. A lesson, he says, one should never forget. So, Dorian is the son of a Magister, even though he himself is not, but he comes from a house known for moderation, it seems. Grand Enchanter Fiona. Grand Enchanter Fiona is considered an anomaly among mages. She is, for instance, the only member of the Circle of Magi ever to leave due to recruitment by the Grey Wardens and then return. Of course, Warden Vexus was recruited, but he is still a warden. The circumstances of that return are largely unknown, but the notoriety she gained within the Circle allowed her to rise rapidly in the ranks. She became first Enchanter of the Montismad Tower, and then elected Grand Enchanter at the College in Cumberland. The latter was based on her advocacy for greater mage freedom, a view she claimed her time with the Wardens supported. Urging for a vote on the matter led to the College of Enchanters' dissolution in 940 Dragon, and then, when a vote was attempted secretly, to Lord Seeker Lambert of the Seekers of Truth arresting Fiona and her fellow enchanters. Following their flight from the ruin of Adderall's Reach, the escaped mages held and passed a final vote on the Circle of Magi's independence. This began the Mage Rebellion. While Fiona no longer holds the official position of Grand Enchanter, most mages still consider her an integral part of the rebellion's leadership. So you might say that Anders' terrorist act in Kirkwall set the events that led to the rebellion in motion. Kind of the official start of the rebellion lies at the feet of Fiona. The hero of Ferelden. In other words, aka Vexus. The hero of Ferelden belonged to the Circle of Magi in Ferelden, residing in the tower at Lake Calenhad for most of his life. First Enchanter Irving recommended the hero to Grey Warden Commander Duncan. Shortly after the hero's harrowing, Duncan recruited him into the Order. After defeating the Archdemon and ending the Fifth Blight, the hero of Ferelden took up the mantle of Warden Commander. He began the task of rebuilding the Order in Ferelden, serving with honor until his disappearance several years later. His current whereabouts are unknown. But it's not actually technically the last we'll hear from him. Iron Bull. M. My dear friend, I completely understand the difficulty you face. To have such well-equipped bandits attack your family's caravan so regularly and with such exquisite knowledge of your shipping schedules is indeed highly unfortunate. There is no shame at all in finding your household guards wanting in such trying circumstances. To answer your question, when faced with my own troubles last year, I employed the Bull's Chargers. Their leader, the Iron Bull, is a Cunari, a great horned giant of a man. He looks like a savage, but spoke like a gentleman. He seems unstoppable in combat, but is far more clever than a simple swordsman. His mercenaries were costly, but they were both strong enough to protect my family's caravans and clever enough to discover how the bandits came into such luck in their attacks upon my family. The bandits have been no trouble at all since, and the Baron of our mutual acquaintance effusively assures me that he would be greatly surprised if they ever again caused us difficulty. If you wish to employ the Iron Bull, I can provide you with his contact information, as well as a list of the liquors he enjoys most particularly. Will your husband also be present in these negotiations, or will you be making the acquaintance of the Iron Bull in a more intimate setting? If so, we should have to talk. The next time our men go hunting. Yours in friendship, B. A letter lifted from a hidden drawer in a noblewoman's vanity and copied carefully before being returned. So yes, the Iron Bull is good at what he does, and can be a bit of the lover as well as the fighter, it seems. Okay. I thought I'd read this one, but it has the star that says I hadn't read it yet. So just to be sure, I'll go ahead. Liliana. She has many names. Most know her as Sister Liliana, or the Nightingale. Some refuse to speak her name at all, referring only to her as the left hand of the Divine, the shadow behind the sunburst throne. The spymaster Marjolaine trained Liliana from a young age. For years, Liliana was Marjolaine's instrument in the great game of Orlais. While Liliana was devoted to Marjolaine, the reverse was not true. Marjolaine betrayed Liliana and almost succeeded in killing her. Liliana survived the betrayal thanks to the revered Mother Dorothea. Following this betrayal, Liliana spent several years in a cloister in Ferelden, hiding from her past. Inspired by Reverend Mother Dorothea, Liliana dedicated herself to her faith, discovering peace in a simple life of devotion. But when the Fifth Blight began, she received what she believed a vision from the Maker. This prompted her to leave her sanctuary, taking up arms against the Darkspawn. Several years after the defeat of the Archdemon, Liliana received a summons from Dorothea, now Divine Justinian V. She returned to Orlais to become an agent of the Sunburst Throne. Justinia perished in the explosion that destroyed the Divine Conclave, and Liliana became a founding member and spymaster of the new Inquisition. We have Lord Seeker Lucius Corrin. Every Templar I knew felt certain he would compromise to see the war ended. But lately, the man seems different, does he not? I never met him before he assumed command. But even in this short time, his opinions on the war have turned. He did not go to the conclave he personally supported. In fact, he seems to regret supporting it at all. He talks of the Templars establishing themselves as a power in our own right, and our fellows are all too eager to listen. I don't know from where this change of heart came, but I begin to wonder if Lambert's death wasn't as simple a matter as we assumed. Something is amiss within our order, and all I know is that it's beyond me to discover what. From a letter written by an unknown Templar, found in a burned-out fort, 941 Dragon. And again, if we had taken the other road, we would actually find much more detail about what happened with Seeker Lucius. So again, it adds some replay value. You can go back and do a playthrough where you go out and try to recruit the Templars instead of the mages. Magister Geryon Alexius. Lords and ladies of the Magisterium, before we vote on the budget for this latest measure against the Qunari, I would ask that we take a moment to consider the state of our institutions of higher learning. The Circle of Minrathous is more than 10,000 years old. Darius the Dreamer himself was born within those walls. It continues to be a source of wisdom and guidance for the best and brightest of the Imperium's youth, yet it falls into disrepair. Magister Aurelius has made her case several times for increased funding to the circles, and as yet her appeals have gone unanswered. Magister Viren has spoken at length on the threat of the Oxmen in the north, a tide of brutality that we alone hold back. Let me add this. How shall we defeat the Qunari? Have we held back their advance all these long years without support from the other nations of Thedas? You know the answer. Magic. It is our magic that holds the beasts at bay, and through the ingenuity of our magic we shall drive them from our shores forever. My friends and colleagues, this is the battle we prepare for our apprentices' sons and daughters to face. They need the resources to discover new magic, new techniques, that can lend us an advantage in this endless war. They cannot do this while roofs crumble over their heads. Repair the circles, let the Imperium's future be more than slow decline to the marching steps of the legions. An address by Magister Alexius to the Magisterium, taken from the official minutes, 2 years ago. A couple of our new recruits will end us out here. First is Sarah. This report by Josephine has been defaced numerous times in a different hand. Sarah always manages to get her hand on various communications if she wants to. On Sarah, read Jenny. and Velissima Lady Parts von Knucklefronts. Yeah, I think Sarah added that part. It falls to me to comment on this Red Jenny, for as a creature of the court I must have seen the effect of her actions, although I cannot be certain. Does that make them effective or ineffective? What I know is that she has vexed cities, guardsmen across Thedas and always escaped. Accessing all available records, it seems clear there have been multiple embodiments of that name, often at the same time. The limitations of communication are such that this is impossible to verify in the moment. A crude drawing of a guard with her breeches at her ankles. The severity of the attributed actions vary widely, from petty to outright vicious. While official reports label these actions unfair, I have knowledge of many named as victims, and several are of suspect character. Sarah would call them something altogether untoward. Yes, mum, shit's the lot of them. There are tales of Red Jenny targeting criminals, slavers, and even assassins' guilds. The benefit of having a local is that they are invested in regional concerns, although this obviously varies. I can discern no protocol. Don't need a title to be awful and deserve it. So who is our Red Jenny? She has been amusing herself in Valrayo for some time, although it is clear from her accent that she is deeply Ferelden. She met with outright laughter my inquiry as to whether she had any special, quote, elven concerns that I could address. I have conferred with Liliana about the danger of this group, and our estimation is that this incarnation of Red Jenny is at least a good distraction. Aw, the scary one cares. Addendum. Denerim. Sarah's claim to have lived in Denerim cannot be verified, but seems likely. The alienage there was neither stable nor secure. Many residents of the city fled the region following the Blight. Given her nature, Valrayo would have seemed rife with targets. Denerim has more than its share of suspect nobility, but most were rallied against a common enemy, thanks to the efforts of the hero of Ferelden. Forced to, more like. Shits and double shits. Yeah, the alienage in Denerim was pretty bad, last we saw it. Last but not least, Vivienne, Madame de Fer. Magic is dangerous, just as fire is dangerous. Anyone who forgets this truth gets burned. An assiduous and talented scholar, Vivienne rose rapidly through the ranks of the Mulsimad's circle. When made a full-fledged enchanter, she elected to join no fraternity, a decision that shocked colleagues but may have been a calculated maneuver. When she successfully applied to be appointed enchanter to the imperial court, nearly every fraternity clamored for her favor in hopes of having a representative at their empress's ear. She was voted first enchanter of Mulsimad at an age young enough to cause scandal. The circle widely regards her as the most shrewd and disciplined mage in Orlais. And we'll be seeing evidence of that. Alright. Like I said before, there are tons of codexes, but the only ones that I really want to read on camera are the ones that have to do with characters.
The Inquisition appreciates your assistance in this matter, Lady Corbin.
And my miners appreciate your business. You'll have your Illyrium by the end of the week. I should tell you, Ambassador, the Chantry raised some fuss when they learned about our arrangement.
The Inquisition must certainly seem an audacious idea to the Grand Clerics. We hope to convince them it is a necessary one as well.
Sounds like the Inquisition is making a deal with at least one or more of the Dwarven guilds to get access to Illyrium. After all, we just hired on a ton of mages, so that makes perfect sense.
I'll take my leave. Good day.
Who is she, Ambassador?
A merchant. I thought we should reach out to the dwarves to secure Illyrium for the Inquisition's mages. According to Lady Corbin, it raised the ire of the Chantry.
How?
Access to Illyrium makes us rather more formidable than anticipated. We're becoming a challenge. Sadly, the remaining Grand Clerics appear to be consolidating the Chantry's power, instead of comforting the masses.
Yeah, it probably has been this way before, with the Chantry being much more political than philanthropic.
Mage circles started falling years ago. The Chantry was troubled even before the Divine's murder.
Yet many people continue to bear it great love. We will not benefit from its decline. Little but the Chantry ties Orlais, Nevarra, Ferelden, Antiva, and even Rivain to a common cause.
Has the Chantry truly promoted such peace?
Andraste's chant is familiar across kingdoms, a source of many shared customs. That is the crucial point. Common ground is the start of all negotiations.
So if everyone listens to the chant, things will be smooth as silk.
I did say commonality is merely a beginning, but it's an important one. We must learn to think beyond our own wants, to secure peace in Thedas.
How did someone so lovely and selfless go into Orlesian politics, Lady Montelier?
Well, that is, really, you give me too much credit. While you're here, I do have a question. The remaining Grand Clerics sent a missive inquiring about the events at the Temple of Sacred Ashes. They demand to know whether the Inquisition officially claims that Andraste saved you from the breach. If it were up to you, how would you reply?
Again, this is what Aurora thinks, and right now, again, she's somewhat uncertain.
Will my answer change your reply to the Chantry?
If Leliana, Cassandra Cullen, and I could agree on our official stance, I could answer that. We should decide soon. The revered mothers don't seem to know what to make of you.
And again, she doesn't know.
I don't know if a miracle from Andraste saved me any more than they do.
Yet as rumors your Andraste's herald grow, the Grand Clerics may not believe such a humble reply. A difficult situation, and I thank you for your answer. A good day to you.
Alright, anything else new that we can discuss, Josephine?
Good day to you.
What do the people make of us?
We've gathered many favors among the nobility. They will be gently reminded of this.
Any visiting dignitaries I should watch out for?
Lady Drummond promised a visit. She has useful resources if we can get her to set aside her games.
What are her politics?
Oh, no, I meant actual games. Chess, cards, dice, little boards with carved idols from Tevinter. She made me play that with her for 8 hours once. Steer her towards cards, if she insists on a match.
I think we already heard that.
Good day to you.
What do the people make of us?
We've gathered many favors among the nobility. They will be gently reminded of this.
Any thoughts on the people here?
Who did you mean?
Let's see. Oh, I'm not sure we actually asked her about our companions. We can do that now.
What's your impression of Solus?
I suppose I should be wary of an apostate, but our elven mage has conducted himself with the utmost propriety. And he has the most fascinating stories.
What do you think of Vivienne?
We've met a few times before at court. She remains a truly accomplished player of the game. So long as her interests align with yours, Madame Vivienne will be a most valuable ally.
You must have an opinion of Dorian.
Who hasn't? The man could cause a scene standing quietly in the center of an empty room. Still, I do believe he has your best interest at heart, for all that he delights in mocking them from time to time.
The Iron Bull has had to have made an impression.
He is a loud, unapologetic accident merely waiting to happen. I do wish he'd stop daring poor dignitaries to outdrink him.
What do you think of Sir Blackwall?
Sir Blackwall seems as loyal to the purpose of the Inquisition as he is to the Wardens. His travels must have taken him strange places. I wish he'd speak more about them.
And, by the way, since we're romancing Josephine, this is not going to happen, but if you don't romance Josephine, and you don't romance Blackwell, then there actually develops a bit of an attraction between the two of them.
I was thinking of Cassandra.
Seeker Pentagast is a princess of the Kingdom of Nevada, although that barely seems important to her. She was not interested when I asked if we might make use of her royal relations. Still, the Inquisition would not have formed without Cassandra. She's an extraordinarily driven woman.
Commander Cullen came to mind.
The commander is an intelligent, cautious man. I'm grateful he's in charge of our standing army. Still, he does sometimes resemble the man with a hammer to whom everything appears as a nail.
I'd love to know how you and Sarah get along.
I know she extracts gossip from the servants, and she keeps prying into things. Sarah's ability to vanish whenever her mischief's discovered must come in handy, however, I'm sure.
I was thinking of Varric.
Oh, I could listen to his tales for hours. He actually let me read a chapter of his next book he's writing. My friends would be sick with envy if they knew. It's excellent, but a bit different from his past works. Only 3 beheadings so far.
Varric would probably get along well with George R.R. Martin, I think.
Let's speak later.
Farewell.
Okay, let's see. Any new monster stuff to drop off?
Thank
yes, we did. Okay. Those are designed to make it more effective for the Inquisition as a whole to fight off these demons.
The Golden City.
Okay. Go on our usual tour here. I'm going to try to be as careful as I can not to get any repeated dialogue.
Your open support for the mages likely earned you enemies. Our agents will monitor the situation. If the most opposed can be identified, we may still turn this to our advantage.
By the way, recruiting the mages is something that is favored by Liliana and Josephine, whereas if you go and recruit the Templars, that'll be much more favored by both Cullen and Cassandra. No killing, Liliana.
You're not planning assassinations, are you?
I was planning to unleash Josephine on them. She kills with kindness. Regardless, I applaud you for the courage to stand up for the mages.
In Redcliffe, you sacrificed yourself so that I could return here.
Of course I did. One small life in exchange for a second chance at history. I always loved a bargain.
It was still a sacrifice, and still noble.
And I would do it again.
Anything I should know?
Altegan has returned to Redcliffe Castle and resumed his duties as Lord. The people are returning, slowly but surely. Unfortunately, our show of support for the mages has angered many.
Well, that was pretty much inevitable.
You seem to know a great many people.
I have made friends, and on occasion enemies. It's unavoidable.
Yeah, we've already asked about that, I think.
We can continue this conversation later.
You know where I am.
Alright, come around this way. And this is where Dorian hangs out in Haven.
The Inquisition supports free mages. What's next? Elves running Hallamsharal? Cows milking farmers?
Give me time. I'm sure I'll surprise you.
I suspect that's untrue. Unless you strip yourself naked and allow the Chantry to flog you into repentance. Now that would surprise me. I do wonder if you've considered what this support of yours will do. For mages in general, I mean. The Inquisition is seen as an authority. You've given Southern mages license to, well, be like mages back home.
And you can flirt with him, but unless you are a male Inquisitor, you will not be able to actually enter into a romance with him.
So what? They all turn into blood mages, worship dragons, and then take over?
Not at first. But you'd be a fool not to see where this could lead. Thing is, the Imperium was once just like the South. Templars, proper circles, all that rot. Then it changed. By inches. Not that this is reason to oppress us. Still, my homeland should be a cautionary tale, not a source of inspiration.
As always, Dorian is often here to offer a very nuanced opinion about both mages and about the Tevinter Imperium.
It occurs to me that I barely know anything about you.
Beyond my being a mage from Tevinter, you mean?
Beyond that, yes.
And beyond my being so charming and well-dressed, which is obvious to anyone.
Some more than others.
Some people have superior taste. Now, what was I talking about? Ah, yes, me. I am the scion of House Parvis, a product of generations of careful breeding and the repository of its hopes and dreams. Naturally, I despised it all. The lies, the scheming, the illusions of supremacy. That's Tevinter in a nutshell, isn't it? Needless to say, my family was not happy with my choices.
What did you mean by generations of careful breeding?
The great families of Tevinter don't have children. They refine traits, weed out the undesirable, and promote the rest. My mother was chosen for my father because magic runs strongly in her blood. Never mind that they loathed each other. They wanted a son who could become Archon to make House Parvis the envy of the Imperium. They got me. A cautionary tale that you should be careful what you wish for.
Why would your family be upset with your choices?
Because I rejected their idyllic plan. If they had their way, by now I'd be married to some unlucky girl from a powerful family. We'd live in luxurious despair, despising each other as I waited to take my father's place in the magisterium. I declined the honor, and thus it's best I'm far from home. Less of an embarrassment that way, you see?
I'm getting the impression that you don't care much for your homeland.
On the contrary, I care for my homeland a great deal. There's so much potential. Sadly, we squander it. We refuse to acknowledge how far we've fallen because pretending is easier. We pretend the Qunari can be beaten. We pretend that we're superior to everyone, even our own people. Not everyone feels that way. I don't. Sadly, we're the minority.
Why remain with the Inquisition? Why not go back to Tevinter?
I'm not exactly welcome back home. Not that it matters, I'm quite accustomed to being a pariah. It adds to my charm. I can do more for Tevinter here. If the Venatori succeed, it'll set my homeland back 1,000 years. I'm sure some magisters would disagree, but that's why we kill them.
I think I've heard enough.
That's too bad. I never tire of talking about myself.
I'd like to ask you about Tevinter.
Ah, yes. Everyone outside the Imperium always seems quite fascinated by it. Probably why they come up with so many ridiculous tales. Flying cows over Minrathous. That's madness. All right, that one's actually true, but the cows didn't have wings. I digress. Anything in particular you wanted to know?
Just how often is blood magic used there?
Oh, not at all.
Not at all.
That's what any magister would tell you. They'd be convincingly offended by the notion too. Of course, what people call blood magic here, and what we consider blood magic, are two different things.
What's considered actual blood magic in Tevinter?
Blood magic isn't inherently dangerous. Using your own blood or that of a willing participant, what's the harm? The problem is that what's permitted only gets you so much power. And what if you need more? You always need more. That's where we get into sacrifices and demon summoning. None of that is done. Not officially. Behind closed doors, it's a different story. Real blood magic can give you an edge, a leg up against your opponents. It's safe to assume that any mage of rank does it. The rest are quietly shut out of power, to put it bluntly.
And we pretty much heard the exact same explanation about how this happens from Fenris back in the second game.